Goldhanger is a beautiful ancient village on the north bank of the Blackwater estuary in Essex and about 6 miles from Whittam. It's a favorite place for Fiona to visit, and since she can only manage 1 dog at a time there, we took the high-energy Dolly. You park in the main part of the village and pass by cottage after cottage ensconced in flowers. If you love poppies, the last week of May is the time to visit England. We arrived at the trailhead and passed by a playground before entering a large field. Dolly let loose to burn off her pent-up excitement, and I could hear the birds chattering away. Suddenly, the path ahead opened up and we were on the seawall, which protects the rich farmland beyond. The Malden district is the ideal place for walking, with over 75 miles of meandering coastline and diverse landscapes. Our lovely walk combined a good stretch of walking in the Essex farmland with a hike on the seawall alongside the estuary of the River Blackwater. These trees pollinate by wind, and the seeds were raining sideways over the seawall. Along the way, there are intertidal salt marsh and mudflats, and boats harvesting the oyster beds. The tide was out when we visited, and the boats sat ghost-like in the marsh. Neolithic flints have been found in Goldhanger Creek, dating some form of civilization back to about 5,000 years ago. You can see the steeple of St. Peter's Church in the distance. We practically had the place to ourselves on this Wednesday. This view is the epitome of English countryside. Wildflowers and succulents line the footpath on the seawall. We sat on the point for a bit and gazed at the view from a conveniently placed park bench. Dark clouds moved overhead, and Dolly was anxious to get moving in the heat of the afternoon. We turned back. But first, I had to capture a last panorama of where the river meets the sea. Salt extraction on the Blackwater has been taking place for about 3,000 years, and the famous Malden sea salt is still extracted here. There is rich diversity here, with butterflies, flies, birds, and I spotted a crow picking in the mudflats. When the tide comes in, this area will be transformed. Some hikers passed by, and we memorialized our experience with a photo. Back on the road at the trailhead, a young girl had grown all these plants to raise money for her school, and Fiona couldn't resist. Which one is the Christmas rose?
That's the little Christmas rose. So it's got, obviously it's not the time of year really for the, oh, I'm not sure what this one is. That's unusual. Oh, now that's really lovely. That looks like another geranium.
Yes, it does.
I think I might have to have that one. I really like that. I like the leaf in that.
This looks very healthy.
Yeah, that's a nice fuchsia, isn't it? I have got quite a few fuchsias. I want some hostas, but she hasn't got any hostas. Bridge where you cross.
There it's back again.
It's back again, isn't it? Well, when it was very dry, we came here earlier this year, and you could see, although you went low, it was like almost stepping stones.
Time to get going, and we walked the other side of the road back and saw even more flowers.
It could even be, oh, you know, I am not sure. They're not osteospermum, they're a flower that my grandmother used to use a lot to dry. They're almost a bit like a chrysanth variety, but I'm not sure.
The walk starts and finishes in the charming and historic village of Goldhanger, with its old cottages, 2 pubs, and 11th century church of St. Peter's. In fact, the pub is right beside the church. I checked out the church while Fiona took the car back for the plants we bought. There are no streetlights in the village, making this an excellent place to view the beauty of the night sky. I exited through this unusual iron gate, only to turn and see my first red telephone booth. Many of these iconic booths have been repurposed in England to contain defibrillators. We sped home through the countryside for our afternoon tea. But there's one thing you have to slow down for in the UK: the one-lane bridge.